Hi, I'm Lori. My sister gave me a box of used diapers at my own baby shower, and everyone laughed. But what they didn't know? I owned the house she was living in, and I evicted her. But that wasn't the worst part. The betrayal ran deeper. Fake support, forged signatures, a family that always said they loved me, while making sure I stayed last. Ever wondered what it takes to finally cut blood ties? The last thing I expected at 38 years old, pregnant, accomplished, composed, was to feel like a child again. But that's what humiliation does. It regresses you. And mine came wrapped in pink paper with a silver bow. That morning, I had stood in front of the mirror, smoothing down the blue dress that clung gently to my rounded belly. My baby shower wasn't extravagant, just a cozy backyard gathering with close friends and family, fairy lights strung between the trees, trays of cookies, and a lemonade stand that Caleb insisted on building himself. He kissed my forehead before guests arrived and said, "You deserve joy today." I believed him for about an hour. People filtered in with bright smiles and pastel gift bags. There was laughter, polite compliments about the setup, even small talk that didn't revolve around my growing stomach. For once, I didn't feel like just a host. I felt celebrated. Until Darlene arrived. My sister always had a way of making an entrance. She strutted through the gate in sky-high heels, holding a massive gift box, as if she were carrying the crown jewels. "Hope this doesn't outshine the others," she winked, loud enough for the whole deck to hear. She hugged me like we were best friends. "Look at you," she cooed, "finally getting everything you always wanted." Her smile was tight. I had seen it before, on birthdays, graduations, even at my engagement dinner. Then she dropped her bomb. "Oh, and I might be pregnant," she added casually, patting her stomach with a theatrical little laugh. The deck fell silent, save for a few gasps and awkward glances. I watched attention drift from me to her. Someone even clapped. Darlene beamed, pretending to wave it off, as if she hadn't just hijacked the entire atmosphere. I swallowed hard, smiled anyway. Later, when it was time to open gifts, I braced myself. Darlene's box was last. "This one's special," she said, eyes glinting. I untied the ribbon slowly, aware of every eye on me. Inside was a pile of diapers. Not new, not wrapped, used, folded tightly. The stench hit a second later. Laughter exploded. Not nervous chuckles, real laughter. From cousins, from coworkers, even from my mother, who tried to hide it behind a napkin. Darlene threw her head back. "Come on, it's a joke. You're loaded. Buy the real ones yourself." I didn't move. Couldn't. Caleb touched my shoulder, but I felt miles away. No one stepped in. No one said, "Too far." I just stood there, holding a box full of waste while my guests howled around me. And yet, I smiled. I looked right at Darlene and smiled, because that was the moment something inside me cracked. Not in defeat, but in clarity. This wasn't a one-off. This was who she'd always been. The sister who clipped my confidence like overgrown branches. The girl who called me teacher's pet and charity case in high school, then told everyone she always supported me when I got my law degree. I remembered the night of my college scholarship interview, 16 years ago. She had come home furious that her boyfriend hadn't bought her the necklace she wanted. She stood in my doorway scoffing at my flashcards. Money doesn't come from effort, Liv. It comes from power. Back in the present, Darlene basked in her performance. I could see it in the way she flicked her hair, in the satisfied gleam in her eyes. But I had learned something that day. She thought she had delivered the final act. She didn't know I was only just getting started. I turned, carefully setting the box of soiled diapers on the ground. I looked up, and I smiled. The silence I had hoped for never came. By 7:06 a.m., my phone had already buzzed 53 times. Missed calls, messages, mentions. My lock screen was a chaotic scroll of red badges and unread texts, all pulsing like little heartbeats. I didn't even make it to the kitchen before Caleb called out from the living room. "You should see this." He was standing by the TV, remote in hand. The screen paused on a video thumbnail. Me, mid-baby shower, holding that disgusting box of diapers. "I didn't open it," he said, "but it's everywhere." I tapped the screen. The clip opened with soft piano music and slow-motion footage of me unwrapping Darlene's gift. There were subtitles added, "Cold sister reacts to thoughtful present." It zoomed in on my face, blank, stunned, Then cut to Darlene laughing, saying, "It's just a joke, you're rich." The video made it look like I was the monster, the one too stuck up to take a joke. There were no sounds of the crowd laughing at me, no camera shift showing their faces. Just a carefully curated, manufactured piece of digital poison. The video ended and my chest was tight enough to split. I looked at Caleb. She posted this? I don't know, but someone did. At work, I barely made it to my desk before my supervisor called me in. She didn't even ask how the shower went. She closed the door behind her and gestured to the chair like we were already in crisis. "We're getting calls," she said. "People saying one of our ADAs humiliated her sister publicly and is now trying to kick her out of her house. I know it's ridiculous, but optics." I sat down, jaw tight. "It's not true." "Doesn't matter, it's viral." I was placed on a 2-week leave until the noise dies down. And just like that, I was no longer a respected attorney with an unblemished record. I was a trending topic. By noon, Reddit threads were dissecting every frame of the video. Twitter bots, yes, actual bots, popped up in waves, sharing posts like Lori Van Atter, cruel, cold, always thought she was better than her sister. Someone even unearthed a blurry high school yearbook photo with a quote Darlene had written. She was always the favorite, but I was always the one who showed up. The narrative was being rewritten, line by poisonous line. Caleb found me sitting in the backyard that evening, barefoot in the grass, scrolling through comments I should have ignored. Most were anonymous. All of them were venom. "She's toxic. She's always been jealous of her sister. No wonder the baby doesn't even have a name yet." It wasn't just character assassination, it was coordinated, personal, intentional. I looked at Caleb and said, "Someone's feeding them this." He didn't argue. 16 years ago, I got my first internship offer. The day I told Darlene, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're not special. You're just lucky nobody's looked too closely." Back then, I thought it was insecurity. Now I realized it was a warning. This wasn't just a bad prank gone viral. This was war. I closed my laptop slowly, the screen darkening like a curtain dropping. My fingers curled around the lid, not in frustration, but in finality. They want a villain? Fine. I've been quiet too long. The video was still circulating when I made my move. Not that it mattered. At that point, my silence had become my weapon. I sat alone in my home office, sunlight bleeding through the blinds in slices, the air thick with a kind of stillness I recognized only as before, the storm energy. And I finally did what I'd been avoiding for weeks. I opened the folder labeled Property Hidden. 6 months ago, when Darlene had fallen behind on mortgage payments again, I stepped in. Not publicly, not proudly. Quietly. I bought the debt, rescued her from foreclosure. I'd told myself it was the right thing to do, a protective gesture, one last olive branch. But Darlene had burned that branch, then tried to hang me with it. I stared at the deed, my name clean and centered, and then closed the folder, gripping it like a handle to something far heavier. That night, our family dinner was set under the warm glow of kitchen lights, the kind that made everything seem deceptively safe. Caleb stayed home. He didn't say why. He didn't need to. Darlene sat across from me, spinning her wine glass between her fingers like she'd won something. My mother was making excuses before I even spoke. "She didn't mean for the video to go viral, honey. People are just sensitive." I waited. I smiled. And when the room fell quiet, I said it plainly. "I own the house Darlene lives in." My father stopped chewing. My mother froze with her fork halfway to her mouth. Darlene blinked once, twice, and then laughed. "You wish," she scoffed. "You're unbelievable." I pulled out my phone, opened the county records, and slid it across the table. "It's public record." She leaned in, her face draining color as she read. "I was going to surprise you with the deed," I added. "Eventually, maybe as a peace offering, but after the stunt at the shower, that offer expired." My mother stammered. "Lori, that's not— Manipulation isn't free," I said calm. "There's a cost." I left before dessert. Back home, I rifled through a cabinet that hadn't been touched in years. Inside, I found old bank documents, mostly outdated, but one stuck out. A loan application from 2 years ago. My name was printed across the top. My signature was on the bottom, except it wasn't mine. I pulled up a legal signature comparison app, scanned it, compared it to my passport, my employment forms, even an old lease agreement. It was close, but not close enough. Darlene had forged my name, applied for a loan, used me as collateral. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I scanned the entire file into a secure folder and labeled it Exhibit A. That night, I poured myself a glass of water, sat down at the kitchen counter, wrote her full name in bold letters across the top of a blank document. Then, notice of eviction. My hand didn't tremble. Not once. I had forgiven her for things I couldn't even name anymore, covered her rent, paid her tickets, pretended she loved me in front of strangers. But I would not let her rewrite my life. That wasn't forgiveness. That was submission. I sealed the envelope, wrote the date on the back, and placed it in the center of the table like a loaded weapon. Then I turned off the light, and I didn't look back. The envelope was waiting on my doorstep like a dead thing. No stamp, no name, just beige paper, slightly damp at the corners from early morning dew. I might have walked past it if I hadn't felt that strange pull in my chest, the kind you get right before something awful. Inside was a folded ultrasound photo, mine, and beneath it a note in shaky handwriting, "Your child will grow up just like you, alone and unprotected." The breath left my body before I could even finish reading. My hand trembled, but not out of fear. It was rage, buried inside panic. Whoever sent this didn't just want to rattle me, they wanted to unhinge me, to tell me they could reach what mattered most. It wasn't a prank, it was a threat, a promise dressed as paper. I ran through my mind like a crime scene analyst. The doctor's office wouldn't leak it. I hadn't posted the image. I hadn't even printed it. I had only emailed it once, to my mother. She'd asked for it last week, said she wanted to include it in the family photo book she was updating. I had paused before hitting send. Something in me hesitated then. The same part of me that now screamed from inside my ribs. That night, I called her. I didn't mention the note, not directly. "Hey," I said, voice even. "Just wanted to check in. Did you get that ultrasound I sent last week?" "I did," she said quickly. "It was lovely. Your baby looks perfect." My jaw tightened. "You didn't send it to anyone, right?" There was a pause. Too long. "Well, I may have forwarded it to your Aunt Carol. She's been asking about the baby." I nodded even though she couldn't see me. "Anyone else?" "Why are you asking, Lori? Is something wrong?" Her tone shifted. Defensive, polished, familiar. "No, just had a weird feeling, that's all." When I hung up, my fingers were cold. My ears were burning. 16 years ago, I once overheard her tell a neighbor, "Lori's always been so intense. Everything is a crisis to her." I was 16 and standing in the hallway. I never forgot. There are many ways to hurt someone. Silence is one of them. I sat in the nursery later that night, surrounded by unassembled baby furniture and soft, untouched blankets. I stared at the window. Then I got up and locked it. The baby monitor went on, even though there was no baby yet. I slid the latch on the nursery door shut, closed the blackout blinds, then just stood there, listening to the silence. And for the first time in this entire disaster, I didn't feel watched. I felt hunted. Not by Darlene, by the idea that someone in my family could sell my child's safety for a story. I walked over to the crib frame, ran my hand along the smooth wood edge, and whispered down into my belly, "I'll protect you, even if it's from them." I wasn't expecting company. I certainly wasn't expecting Raina. She knocked twice, firm and fast, before I even heard her car door shut. I opened the door still in my robe, hair damp from a restless shower. She stood there, eyes sharper than I remembered, holding a flash drive in one hand and a bag of lemon muffins in the other. "I brought breakfast and betrayal," she said, stepping past me like she still lived here. She didn't sit. She hovered. I followed her into the kitchen where she plugged the drive into my laptop without waiting for permission. "You remember junior year at UT?" she asked. "The plagiarism thing?" Of course, I remembered. That year clung to me like mildew. I'd been investigated for copying sections of a research paper. A paper I'd spent 3 months building from the ground up. It nearly cost me my scholarship. I cried the night I got the email from the department chair. accusation dressed in formality. Rena pulled up a folder. I remembered something weird back then. Darlene was on my old Gmail chat saying stuff about you getting knocked off your high horse. I thought she was just venting. But then, I found this. The email on screen was the one sent to the university. The complaint, sent from an anonymous Gmail, masked under a fake name. But Rena had traced metadata, IP history, old backups from a shared dorm server. It was Darlene's. My stomach hollowed. I stared at the screen like it might rewrite itself. But the truth sat there, ugly and quiet. She tried to ruin me, I whispered, before any of this even started. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I walked upstairs. The attic was stifling, dust clinging to every box and memory. I dug through yearbooks, tax folders until I found it, my old journal. I flipped to fall semester, the days around the investigation. My handwriting then was uneven, tense. Dr. Colton said someone turned in a report saying I stole sections. I didn't. I swear I didn't. No one believes me, not even Mom. She said, "You must have done something to draw that kind of attention." My breath caught. I sat on the attic floor, journal in one hand, truth in the other. All those years of self-doubt, of thinking maybe I'd just been too careless, that maybe it was my fault. That voice inside me, hers, had done its job well. I went back downstairs. Rena was scrolling through Twitter, ignoring the storm brewing in my face. "She's always needed you to fail," Rena said. "You ever notice that?" "She didn't just hurt me now," I said slowly. "She's always been aiming to ruin me." Rena met my gaze. "So what are you going to do?" I closed the laptop, picked up my phone, dialed my attorney. "I need to schedule the eviction," I said, then paused. "And I'm not stopping there." I thought I was done being surprised, but betrayal has a way of finding new doors to slip through. It doesn't always scream. It whispers in ledgers, in quiet money trails, in names typed beside yours that were never supposed to be there. It started with a number, a recurring transfer from my father's account. At first, I assumed it was something benign, maybe leftover utility bills, maybe Dad was just being Dad, but the number kept showing up. After the file Rena gave me, I couldn't stop pulling threads. I started combing through my own bank statements, then Darlene's, what I could find. There were overlaps, deposits, dates that lined up far too neatly with her fake cries for help. "I'm broke, Lori. I've got nothing. I'm living on peanut butter and wine. You think I like asking for help?" That had been just before the baby shower, just before she humiliated me in front of every friend I had. And during that same week, a $2,000 deposit from our father landed in her account. I wasn't ready to confront him, not yet, so I called an old friend, Kelsey, who used to handle estate accounting. She owed me a favor. It didn't take her long. "You're not going to like this," she warned, "but it's clean, legal, and it's been running for years." "What is?" "There's a savings account in your father's name, joint with Darlene." I blinked. "Like a co-owned account?" "Yep. Established in 04. I was 21 in 2004, struggling to cover college tuition while working 3 shifts at a diner and applying for scholarships at night. I'd once asked Dad for help with a $300 registration hold. He told me, "You need to learn how the real world works." Apparently, Darlene didn't. The heat that rose in my chest didn't feel like rage. It felt like betrayal too old to even rage over. 16 years ago, Dad had found me at the dining table buried in textbooks. He said, "You're pushing yourself too hard. You'll burn out." I smiled, hopeful, thought maybe it meant he saw me. Then he added, "You should be more like your sister. She knows how to ask for help." The ledger Kelsey sent was clinical. Numbers, dates, balances. But to me, it read like a history of preference. Darlene wasn't just the golden child. She was the insured one, the backed up, the invested in. Not once, not a single line, was I listed as a co-owner on anything. I didn't cry. I didn't storm out of the house or throw the laptop across the room. I sat at the kitchen counter, staring at that account statement, and felt something shift. The kind of shift that doesn't explode, but calcifies. They always chose her, and I had spent my whole life trying to earn what was never even offered. I opened my phone, scrolled to my father's name, pressed and held until the delete contact option appeared. Then I opened a blank Word doc, titled it, Official Notice of Eviction. For the first time, I understood what real detachment felt like. Not coldness, just release. Filing the restraining order wasn't a decision. It was a line I drew in the sand after being shoved backward one too many times. I sat across from my attorney in a small, windowless office downtown. The carpet was cheap, the coffee bitter, but I felt something I hadn't in months. Control. "This isn't a family feud," I said, sliding over the folder of emails, screenshots, and records. "It's personal survival." He nodded without comment. He had seen worse. But I wondered if he'd ever seen a case like mine, one where the damage didn't bruise the skin, just everything beneath it. I walked out of that office lighter than I entered, and yet, as soon as I got into my car, my phone lit up with a group chat notification. Family thread. Dad. "Just heard. Is this really necessary?" Mom. "Sweetheart, are you sure you're not overreacting?" Cousin Jill. "Wow." And then silence. No one asked for my side. No one called to check in. The same silence that had kept Darlene safe for decades now turned inward on me like a clenched fist. Later that night, Caleb asked, "You still feel good about it?" I didn't even look up. I'm not negotiating with someone who laughs when I bleed. He didn't push back. 2 days later, a letter arrived via courier. Legal envelope, crisp seal. I didn't open it right away. My stomach already knew what it would say. Darlene's lawyer was offering a deal. If I dropped the restraining order, she would agree to vacate the property willingly and refrain from future contact. No apology, no ownership of what she'd done. Just a neat little exit plan wrapped in corporate language. It wasn't an olive branch. It was an invoice for my silence. She didn't want peace. She wanted immunity. I read the letter 3 times, then folded it in half and dropped it into the trash. No deals, no shortcuts. I wasn't going to let her vanish into the mist again, only to come back stronger and sneakier. That night, I logged into my personal social media for the first time in weeks. I posted a single screenshot, the court docket listing my name as petitioner. Below it, I wrote, "Sometimes protecting your peace means ending the conversation completely. No names, no drama, just fact." The post went viral within hours. I didn't flinch. I didn't check comments. I just closed the app, turned off my phone, and went to bed knowing, for once, I wasn't shrinking to make room for someone else's chaos. 3 months passed in a kind of haze, the kind only new motherhood can summon. Sleep became a memory, time blurred, but something inside me had started to mend, or maybe just settle. I didn't feel strong, not exactly, but I felt still. And for a woman who had lived months in a storm, stillness was its own kind of healing. Then the letter arrived. No return address, just my name, written in handwriting I recognized before I even opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, 3 short lines. "I'm sorry, I miss you. Please don't hate me forever. Darlene." I read it once, then again. Then I folded it and set it on the kitchen table. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just sat there, staring at it like it might morph into something else. Later that night, Caleb found me holding it. He didn't ask what it said. He just looked at me carefully and said, "Maybe it means something." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe Darlene had changed. Not because I needed her back, God, no, but because I wanted proof that people like her could change. That maybe this didn't all end in silence. I even drafted a reply. 2 sentences, something about peace. But my fingers hovered over send like they knew what I didn't. The next day, I met with my lawyer to finalize some estate paperwork left behind after my mother passed. It was mostly routine, just names, numbers, notarized copies. But buried in one of the older documents was a clause I'd never seen. If Darlene and I remained estranged, our joint inheritance would be locked indefinitely. No disbursement, no access. Not unless we made good faith efforts toward reconciliation. The timing of Darlene's letter suddenly made perfect, calculated sense. I didn't ask the lawyer to explain. I didn't need him to. I walked out of that office with the folder clutched in one hand and Darlene's letter folded tight in the other. Back home, I opened the memory box I'd been building since this war began. Inside were the ultrasound printout, the eviction notice, and now this letter. I added it. Didn't tear it. Didn't reply. Just close the lid. Letting go isn't dramatic. It doesn't shout or slam doors. It's just a quiet decision to stop dancing with ghosts. That night, after tucking my daughter into her crib, I opened my laptop and began typing. Not to Darlene, to my daughter. 3 months without a text. 2 months since the final court date. 1 month of uninterrupted silence. And for the first time in what felt like years, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. The quiet didn't feel like a warning anymore. It felt earned. My daughter, Ellis, slept on my chest, her breath soft and even, her tiny fingers curled like she was holding onto dreams. I'd never known a stillness like this, not even when I was alone, because this wasn't solitude, it was sanctuary. The family group chat had died weeks ago, not with a bang, not with a goodbye, just unread messages and then nothing. I didn't remove myself. I didn't have to. Ghosts don't need closure. I started walking more. Long, slow strolls through the neighborhood park. Just me and Ellis. Sometimes Caleb. Sometimes Rena. But mostly just us two. I watched birds nest in spring branches and thought, this is what safe feels like. I deleted Darlene's number long ago, but every so often, I'd dream about her. Always in fragments. Her face twisting into apology, then accusation. In one dream, she handed me a candle that melted as soon as I touched it. Sometimes I wondered, had she really let go? Or was she still waiting, circling the perimeter like a wolf watching the fence line? But those thoughts passed faster now. They didn't cling the way they used to. I never responded to her letter. I never reopened the box I put it in. But I didn't throw it away either. Maybe because I needed proof that she had once tried, even if it was for the wrong reasons. 16 years ago, I used to write letters to myself, ones I'd never send. I'd hide them between textbooks or under dresser drawers, scribbling thoughts like, "You are not what they call you." I found one last week. The handwriting was shaky, the ink smudged from where I'd probably cried over it, but the girl who wrote it, she knew this day would come. So I wrote a new letter. Not to Darlene, not to my parents, to Ellis. No names, no timelines, just truth. Never mistake cruelty for love. Never apologize for protecting your peace. And never let someone confuse your silence with weakness. I folded it carefully, slipped it into an envelope with her name on it, sealed it. One day, she'll read it. Not now, not soon. But someday when her own boundaries are tested and the world tries to tell her she's overreacting, and she'll know she comes from a woman who chose to end the story without revenge, just freedom. That evening, as we walked under the golden haze of sunset, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stared at it for a long moment, then pressed block. Not out of anger, not even fear, just clarity. I whispered down to Ellis, "This chapter's over." And I walked forward. Sometimes survival isn't loud. It doesn't come with applause or a dramatic ending. Sometimes it's quiet, just a woman drawing a line and choosing peace over chaos. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Love should never come wrapped in guilt, manipulation, or fear. And family? It's not defined by blood. It's defined by respect, truth, and reciprocity. I hope my daughter never has to fight the battles I did, but if she does, she'll know exactly where the line is drawn, and she'll know how to walk away with her head high. What about you? Have you ever had to cut ties with someone who was supposed to love you unconditionally? How did it change you? If this story touched something deep in you, leave a or just comment 1 below so I know you're out there. Or tell me, where are you watching from? If it didn't resonate, that's okay too. Tell me why. I want to hear your story. And if you never want to miss another story like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Your next chapter might start with the next video.